All right, hello everyone. We are live, I think. Please let me know if you can hear everything because I was working on this last minute and I don't know what I screwed up or not, but we're here, we're live, and we're ready to hang out for the next couple of hours. I'm Scott Daly, obviously. I think most people probably know that. Matt, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Matt Freeman. I'm the other one.
And then we have our two newest members here. Malia and Jenny, say hello.
Woohoo!
Hello.
Hello. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Malia.
That's good.
And
Actually,
that's our order.
that's good for me because I've talked to you guys 3 times on camera, and I still am like, at the beginning of them, like, okay, which is
Which? It's all right. I mean, I think I've had a good 10 to 15 minute conversation with my mom, and she thought I was Malia, and like she was asking about how
she
law
called me,
school.
and I let Jenny answer, and it just got really funny.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I was trying to be really obvious too, because she was asking like stuff about law school, and I was like, yeah, learning lots of law stuff. Like laws are just hard, like really stupid stuff like that. And she was just like, yeah, you're right, laws are hard.
Laws are hard. Yes.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I thought that would be kind of obvious that it was me, but I guess not.
It's funny because back when Matt and I first started, like, some people would confuse my voice for Matt's and Matt's for me. Like, they would say, I can't believe Matt said this. And I would be like, no, that was definitely me. And I would always go, how do people not remember? But then when I was talking to you two and we got off the phone, I was like, okay, which is the one that's leading the other one through the book? I honestly couldn't remember. So
Sure.
That's funny. I will never be offended if you call me Malia. And
I think I've got it now. I think I've got it down. I don't know, Matt, how you feel about this.
Yeah. I think I have it. I think I have it straight.
All right.
I wonder, do people have trouble telling me and Daniel's voices apart? I've never actually asked anyone if that was the case, since we do a podcast together. Also,
I mean, no, not me, but that's only because I know the two of you really well. I mean, you do sound a lot alike. But Daniel sounds more like Michael sometimes, which is weird to me.
yeah, that's what you said before. Voices, man. I don't get how people can confuse you and me though, because our voices sound nothing alike. That's why we're in podcasting. 'Cause our voices are different, right?
Yeah, that is
the only reason.
But we're not here to talk about ourselves for the first time ever. We're here to talk about you, Malia and Jenny. One of the things we do whenever we have some new people join the organization is we just like to have like a meet and greet as one of our monthly streams. And we were going to do it last month, but y'all couldn't make it. So
My bad.
We're doing. Oh,
that was
no,
my fault.
It's totally fine. Totally fine. But so we figured we do it now. So we're just going to ask y'all some questions. We're going to kind of lead the discussion to get to know y'all better. But we have our friends in the chat, and they'll probably ask you some questions as well. You can just say, no, I don't want to answer that, you jerks, if you want to.
All right. I'm going to quote you.
Okay. So I don't know if everyone in the audience knows this, but you guys are sisters.
We are
That's wild.
guilty as charged.
So I guess
Pretty crazy.
like kind of talk to me about how you guys started with the podcast. What kind of brought it about? What made you want to decide to do a show together?
So I think it was, Malia introduced me to Worm, and I really loved the story. Kind of got into reading Pact and tried to read Twig, and it just killed my heart a little bit, so I didn't get that far through it. But I actually had to sit Malia down because I was like, you have to read Pale. It's so good. You have to read it. And she was like busy doing law school stuff,
I mean, we've established that the law is hard, so.
Law is hard, yes. But I actually like sat her down, and what was probably really boring, I read like the whole like just the first chapter.
The prologue.
The prologue, yes, out loud.
Oh, wow.
It was
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was probably really boring, but somehow it interested her enough to get her to actually want to read it. So
Yeah. Jenny, in terms of like the podcast, I got into podcasts a couple of years ago. My friend was making some podcast and he was like, listen to it. And I had like hour-long drives a lot. And so music got kind of boring. I would zone out and started listening to podcasts more. So then Jenny found y'all somehow when you were doing, was it We've Got Ward when you started listening to them, Jen?
yeah,
Or,
I
um,
think so.
and she was like, hey, look, there's Wild Dope podcasts. And also read Ward. That was another thing she got me to read. So slowly making our way through that. And I had really wanted to do a podcast just because, like, I probably listen to podcasts for like 4 or 5 hours a day. It's just constantly what I'm doing. And when you listen to enough of them, you really want to be able to, respond. Especially when people have a good dynamic, you want to be able to say, oh no, you're wrong about whatever they're talking about. But I never like had a really good idea for one or like an actual thing to talk about every week. But I finally caught up with Pale, like I was current, and I decided to start reading Pact. Even though everyone says it's scary, I was like, well, I'll try it. And I read the first chapter and I called Jenny and I was like, this is so funny. All of these people are obviously practitioners, blah, 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 blah. And it was such a fun conversation. And I've listened to several podcasts, like We've Got Worm, where one person has read the story and the other person hasn't, and they're going along. And I was like, this would be really fun. That's kind of like how the podcast in particular happened.
I love that. I feel like that's kind of how all podcasts, because like Matt and I's whole thing, it started when it was just like 4 of us old college friends would get on a call every week, or we tried to be every week. We didn't always make it, and just talk for a couple hours. And I think one day we said, why don't we record those? And then we structured it a little bit more, and then we were bad for like 4 years, and then we eventually got okay at it. But I like that. That's great. Kind of just wanting to capture the conversations you're having already, but in maybe a more organized format.
Yeah. I also had the issue of listening to a ton of podcasts, and just if I watch or read or whatever, any art form, I'm like, I want to do it. I'm like, I have to do it.
Yeah.
So after listening to that many podcasts, eventually it was like inevitable. And yeah. So.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
I want to say here before we go on that Elliot was hoping to be here this evening, but he was unable to. But he sent me a bunch of questions to ask you folks. So some of these questions I can't, like, I'm gonna ask you, but I don't get them because I think it's Pale references that I don't understand. But I told him I would do it, so I'm gonna stay true to my word. This is one that I do know because I've read a whole one arc of Pale, so I know these characters a little bit. But Elliot wants to know which Kenneteer are you? And Malia and Jenny, you can each answer in turn.
I'll let you go first, Malia.
Yeah, I'm Avery. I guess like in terms of why, I mean, there are things that don't match up with us, but I think especially around that age, I really, really wanted to be in a relationship. And that was kind of like the big thing I felt like I was missing in my life. I mean, I had a decent amount of friends, unlike Avery at the start of the story. But just her kindness, the way she's very like aware of the other people around her and wants to make people feel included. A lot of those things really remind me of myself. And just like, especially at that age again, like the prioritization of like romantic relationships in particular, and kind of like the idealization of that is something I really relate to. Yeah. What about you, Jen?
I would also say Avery, but for probably some slightly different reasons. I don't think I cared quite as much about romantic relationships, like being real young, but I had kind of a difficult time in like middle school and high school with friends, like basically meeting girls can be really shitty, basically. But so I can relate to her like having struggles and kind of some insecurities about wanting to make sure that you hang on to friendships. So that
Nice.
I also was into sports quite a bit. And kind of just certain little things about her personality kind of remind me of myself as well. But the friend thing definitely stood out to me as like that I can relate quite a lot.
Which sports were you into?
I played soccer. I played volleyball for at least a few years. I did track, cross country, which I really sucked at cross country, but had these really cool shirts that I thought were hilarious at the time that said, I've got the runs. It was like, thought it was like the funniest thing. Yeah, very classy,
I can't believe believe the coaches and teachers allowed that. That's amazing.
Yeah, we had a weird school, I guess. I don't know.
That's great.
All right, so do you agree with each other's assessment? So Malia, do you agree with Jenny's assessment and vice versa? This is when it gets fun. Fight.
I mean, I think a lot of the things Jenny says about her similarities to Avery are right. I think it's interesting that we picked out like kind of, if you kind of split Avery's character in two, we picked out the opposite halves for ourselves kind of. But I think Jenny reminds me the most of Lucy. She reminds me of Verona in that she thinks that like serial killers are interesting and Verona likes gross stuff.
Way
but
to
like
call me out.
Jenny has this like very deep sense of justice. She has a very like stark sense of what is right and what is wrong, and she kind of like really like she's like unwavering. She'll make a decision about something in a moral sense. Yeah, I mean we all are in our family, but she makes a decision about something like in a moral sense, and like once she kind of decides, okay, like this thing was wrong, or like this person is a good person, or whatever, she just like sticks with it. And I feel like Lucy is very like Lucy has a very defined and passionate sense of like right and wrong. And so when I think of the Kenneteers, like I think of Avery as being a lot more timid. Jen's not timid, but she's very like certain.
Fair enough. I feel like I'm less timid around you as well, because like I know that you have to kind of like tolerate my presence, so
that's not true.
I mean, I guess that's true. But I'm like, I figure you're still gonna kind of like me anyway, so I can, I think I'd agree with what you're saying as well. But yeah, it's tricky because like all these characters are relatable in some way, so it's like you can't just pigeonhole someone into one box. But yeah, I think I agree like with what you're saying about Avery. I mean, you are like pretty much a lawyer. I mean, you're saying you're not really a lawyer yet, but you're close enough. So you're pretty much Lucy, and then Verona's just like a cat lady. So
I like cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's something I noticed about the story is there's such rich characters that whichever one you're reading at the time you relate to so much that you're like, yeah, I've definitely got a streak of Lucy in me, and it's like, yeah, that's just because you read Lucy most recently.
Yeah. That's true.
But,
wait, you read this book, Matt?
I haven't read all of it. I read a bunch of it, and then I got distracted. I'm not caught up.
I didn't know you were further along than me. I feel disappointed in myself now.
Yeah, I haven't read it in a while, but it's because I don't have time to read things with my eyes, and nobody's doing an audiobook, so.
Wait, that's not true. I'm pretty sure there's an audiobook.
Is it caught up?
I think they're in like arc 7.
Oh my god.
You've just lost all excuses, Matt.
Just go on without me, everyone.
Matt is just gonna be listening to Pale for the rest of the show. Okay.
Yeah, you could just find somebody like me to read it out loud to you. I'm sure that'll be
All right.
thrilling.
Here's an Elliot question that I don't understand at all, but just go with it. Would you rather fight 100 John-sized cherry pops or 1 cherry pop-sized John?
That would be a very confusing question.
I also feel like it's easy. I don't know about you, what you think, Jen.
What was that? You said
this is an easy choice.
I mean, me too, but I'm curious if we're gonna say the opposite thing anyway.
Cool.
You should have to count down 3, 2, 1, and then both give your answers, and we'll see if you agree with
All
this.
All right. 3, 2, 1. 100
John
Chairs. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Definitely.
Okay,
Because...
can you attempt to explain why in a way that dumb people like me who haven't read the book can understand?
So think of, well, you just called yourself dumb. Think of like the dumbest thing ever, I guess. And that's a cherry pop. Like, just like not good at anything. I mean, I'm sorry. Whereas...
No. Yeah, you talk, and then I had one defense for cherry pop, but I still would rather fight her.
Okay, I might be being kind of harsh, but I mean, am I though? They're just like not very good at things. Whereas John, think of him as like combat, like elite, like
Jason Bourne, right?
Yes. So
combined
would you
with,
rather
like, almost immortal, like very, very, very hard to kill?
Like almost impossible to kill, to where you think you killed him, but like, just kidding, he's not dead.
So Jason Bourne then.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. So would you rather have like a mini Jason Bourne where like he could hide in little crevices and things and like sneak attack you, or would you have like these giant like stooge like things where you can easily dodge and like outsmart, you know?
It's funny because when I read this question, I thought it said 100 cherry pop sized Johns or 1 John sized cherry pop, and I was like, well, that's not even difficult. No, it's yeah. This is good.
I think that the defense and the opposite of this question is, number one, like, if John's gun did not size down, like, I'm trying to picture exactly how small Cherry Pop is, but maybe it'd be harder for her to use weapons like that, or for John to use weapons like that if he was that size and the weapons weren't. On the other hand, Cherry Pop is, like, more stubborn than anyone in our family. Like, Cherry Pop has the determination that's just, like, almost otherworldly, and maybe 100 John-sized Cherry Pops could just kind of, like, fall on you and you'd die or something. But I do think she's, like, she has the utmost determination in her little body.
Okay, so I literally just occurred to me that Cherry Pop was a goblin, like just now.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Cherry Pop is a very small goblin.
Okay, I got
Very
it.
small, stupid.
I got it.
I like that after enough time, the goblin names lose their meaning and you forget that they're extremely inappropriate.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, that just occurred to me now too. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
That just clicked. Thank you. I'm not at the top of my game right now. That's amazing. I think I should probably read this book.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
It's by this author, Wildbow. You might have heard of him.
No. Sounds made up. All right, Matt, you want to ask some questions? I guess, Matt, prep a question, and while you're doing that, audience, we'll take some questions from y'all if you have anything for Malia and Jenny.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, the next question from this list is, I think this is a good question because this is something that I was thinking about when I was starting podcasting. Who's your ultimate guest? Who would be your on your wish list of ultimate guest?
I mean, just in terms of like the story that we're talking about, I'd say Wildbow.
Yeah, I was gonna say other than Wildbow, definitely Wildbow.
Sure.
I almost feel like I'd be too nervous to ask him questions.
I think that what we would have to do is have him on our podcast, Our Mom Critiques Wild Bow,
Yeah.
and then that would just be a little bit of a cluster, in a wonderful way. You know,
I mean, that would take the name and make it like more accurate. Like she's literally critiquing him as
exactly,
he
like
speaks.
to his face, which is, maybe
on
not.
the most recent episode, I feel like I've explained to her that this is a long book, but she was trying to guess about the end of the story and different things, and she guessed something that doesn't happen, like it happens relatively soon. And we were talking about, oh, how much longer is this book or whatever, and it's like, well, Mom, you've read one arc and he's on arc 12 and the story's not over, and she just like freaked out. Like, whoa. So certain things like that. She also really wants to ask him about his childhood. And I'm not sure if she realizes that he listens. And I was just like,
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I think Elliot told me this book has hit 1.4 million words now, which is a lot.
It's so funny.
It was supposed to be the short little few month project.
I mean, yeah, I'm super glad that he was mistaken about that, or he changed his mind, because it's kind of an amazing story.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely my favorite thing so far.
Good job snaring your mom, though. I should try that on my parents, just to give them something to do.
Yeah. That.
How about
Matt?
another...
I know this is not about you, but what kind of podcast would you do with your parents? I'm really intrigued by this.
Well, see, this is a total tangent, but I keep trying to like convince my dad that he should like he's fixing to retire, and I'm like, you should, and he's never going to hear me say this. He seemed to be kind of depressed at the idea of retiring, and was getting kind of down about it. And I was like, you should consider starting a podcast, because it's something to do. It keeps you busy, something to do every week. You could do it about any of a number of hobbies that you have. And it would sort of keep you invested in those hobbies. Like I was like, yeah, it seems like a great, and what me and Scott can tell you for sure is that it's fun, even if you have 4 listeners, and 2 of them are you, and the other 2 are your parents. So like I think it'd be a good like retirement activity for a person to do, actually.
Yeah, that's smart. Structure.
Yeah,
that's actually a pretty good idea. Not to mention, like, I feel like as people get older, it's kind of nice if they start like recording some of the events in their life, just to kind of play to the grandkids or whatever. Just be like, oh yeah, like bread cost like 5 cents, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
All
exactly.
Right. Sorry, I took us on a tangent there. I just needed to know. Go ahead, Matt.
Tangents are great.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep going down these questions, because I think they're good questions. What else would you do a podcast about? And another way you could ask that question is, do you have any ideas for what would be next? What could be next after this podcast?
I think we'll preface this with, this is an extremely mean question, considering you're like, 3 arcs into an extremely long story that's taken a while to do.
Funny enough, I think we both have an answer for that, because so that's okay. Although, don't get excited, people, because this does not mean we're going to do this. It just means that they're ideas. So
You can't stop them from getting excited.
No, yeah.
I'm sorry to tell you.
It's like when Alexandra talked about the Twig podcast, and there's a message like once a week being like, where's the Twig podcast?
Where's the Twig podcast? I mean, I feel the same way, though, because I should read that story, but it would help to have a podcast going.
True. Well, I mean, that was one of our ideas, and I think I mentioned it to you guys, Matt and Scott. And it just was going to be called Twig on Tequila, because we can't handle the story sober. So it'd probably be switching back and forth, one of us getting tipsy on tequila, and discussing this heart-wrenching story every week.
Did y'all ever watch the movie Another Round? It was the Academy Award-winning foreign film from last year, out of Denmark. and it was a movie about 4 school teachers who like decided to test the theory that our blood alcohol level is just like 0.5% too low, so they just decided to be semi-drunk all the time. And I'm wondering if that would make like good, like that's like the sweet spot for because like you don't want to get too drunk on a podcast because then you just get
True.
sloppy and terrible. But like
Yeah.
just like the sweet spot right there. I don't know. This is it. We have a hypothesis. You're gonna have to test it.
I guess we'll have to test it. I
Someday.
mean, someday.
Yeah. I really love the Wheel of Time, as some of you might know, and there are already a decent amount of Wheel of Time podcasts, and also it's a very, very long book series, so I wouldn't necessarily want to do that. But the TV show is coming out, and I was like, this would be a good opportunity. But Jenny is a lot like my dad in certain ways, and I'm a lot like my mom. And one of the ways I'm like my mom is I have a hard time saying no to things, and I like being busy. So I'm in charge of an organization at the law school, and then I'm second in charge of a journal, and then I just became this like peer mentor last week. And so like, and then November is one of the bad months for law students because that's when you're actually supposed to start studying for your exams. And it was just announced today, I think, that the show's coming out in November, and it's like, oh, I just can't do that. I'd still love to do a Wheel of Time podcast, but someday.
Yeah. I think that's a perpetual problem here at Doof. I think I have like 37 ideas that I think are great ideas and just no time to do them. And I like the thing is I convince myself that I have time to do them, and then I go, hey Matt, I got an idea. And he goes, no. No.
Or I just go, good luck with that, Scott.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So totally understandable. Yeah, that would be a fun show sometime. But yeah, do not load yourself up with too much stuff for sure.
Yeah, I like Wheel of Time too, though. I was considering whether I want to like start audiobooking my way through Wheel of Time to remember my childhood.
Here's the thing, Matt. You're gonna end up like you're playing like fat. Like I was just thinking about like this is how it starts with you. Like you think about it, and then like 2 weeks later you're like watching YouTube videos about it, and then 2 weeks after that you're just reading them.
You do know me too well, don't you?
So it's gonna happen. You're doing it.
That's fuck you, but you're right.
It's either a really good time to do it or a really bad time to do it, depending on the quality of the show, because either you're going to like have a really fresh memory of like a lot of the things you loved, and then the show's going to fuck it up in your opinion, or you're going to have a really fresh memory and you're going to be like, oh wow, they did that really well. So it's risky.
This is the Amazon one, right?
This is a great segue. It's a great segue to discussion of various favorite media. First question. What's your favorite? Okay, the heading is desert island media, which I suppose the context is stuff that you would want to have with you on a desert island. What is something that's the opposite of the other verse that you love?
So the thing I tend to read the most is just like fantasy stories in general, but my favorite author is Jane Austen. And I think that a bunch of people sitting in rooms and talking about like embroidery and the rich man in town and like whatever is the opposite of the other verse. I mean, I think maybe there's some parallels, but she's incredible, and I love all of her novels, even the ones that people don't like, and that's probably my favorite opposite of the other verse.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
My mind's blank. I'm like, I can't think of anything, but just because it popped into my head, the Enchanted Forest Chronicles. I mean, maybe you might argue it's not fair to say it's the opposite because it has magic and it's fantasy and crap like that, but you know, it's not. It's pretty light. It's like a kid's story. It's one of those things you could just read over and over and just like it's just fun. It's just fun to read. So
it's tonally opposite then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. What is your guilty pleasure movie?
Mm,
And I would just like to state for the record that I don't like the term guilty pleasure movie because don't feel guilty about things that you like. Don't feel that way. It's your pleasure movie. Wait, that sounds weird. Don't call it that either.
So you,
we're
so
not.
you don't so you don't think I should feel guilty about Chronicles of Riddick? You think I should just wear that with pride?
There's an
See?
exception to every rule.
Just had like the urge to say like the most terrible movie just to get a reaction. But I love Mel Brooks movies. Like Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs, Men in Tights, all those. Like I could just watch those over and over and not get bored. Also, I mean, this isn't a Mel Brooks movie, but Airplane, just like kind of funny comedy things like that. That's a great movie.
Yes.
I have a question for you. Have you seen the Mel Brooks movie Dracula Dead and Loving It? Because we're reading Salem's Lot right now, and so Bram Stoker's Dracula has been on my brain a lot. And for some reason, this stupid Mel Brooks farcical adaptation of Dracula has been on my brain a lot too.
I've heard of it before, but I haven't seen it. No.
It's extremely silly, as you would expect.
Yes.
The only reason it's been on my brain is because there's a scene in it where they kill a vampire, and there's just so much blood, like a ridiculously absurd amount of blood. And Mel Brooks plays Van Helsing in the movie, and he directed it. And like, so whenever he sends the guy to kill the vampire, he like stands behind a column and doesn't say anything because he knows how it's not funny to describe a funny scene, but it's a very good movie. Y'all should see.
There you go. That's another podcast idea, Malia. Mel Brooks films.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was also going to say Enchanted Forest Chronicles. I definitely do a read-through podcast of that. When I think of guilty pleasure movies, I think of like movies that I really liked in my teen years that now feel problematic when I watch them. So I'm thinking like Serendipity, She's All That, just a lot of the like rom-coms that now I'm like, oh, that's the problem, and oh, consent, and like, oh, why are you all cheating on your spouses and stuff. Like, well, like, so You've Got Mail is one that I've managed, like, even though it's like, oh, you guys are kind of cheating on people and this is weird, like, I don't care, I still love that movie.
That's like my wife's favorite movie. She's obsessed with that movie.
Good. Yeah. Has she seen French Kiss? I just Meg Ryan movies like French Kiss, When Harry Met Sally, and You've Got Mail. So good.
I don't know if she's seen French Kiss. I know When Harry Met Sally and You've Got Mail. Yeah, we go to New York like once a year because we both love the city, and like I think one of the years we just walked around all the places that were filmed for You've Got Mail because she's like I think one of them like there's a scene that's like in a famous tea shop or something. I don't remember, or a diner. I don't know. We went and ate at the diner because we had to because she's obsessed.
The Met. When Harry Met Sally is when people ask me what my favorite movie is, that's one of the ones I go to when I freak out and can't think of anything else because I love it so much. But the Egypt room in the Met, where they filmed like the Ocean's 8 scene and all of that stuff, I didn't realize what that room was, but I walked in and I like stopped and I like gasped, and I'm like 18 years old at this point, and my dad's like, "What?" And I was like, "Harry and Sally were here!" Like I just like freaked out. He was like, "Okay."
That's great. That's
hilarious.
See,
Awesome.
and this is why we don't ask the question, "What's your favorite movie?" though, because that's a terrible question, and I've just like picked a movie that is going to be my answer, so I don't have to think about it. Because if you really asked me, it would blindside me, and I just wouldn't know what to answer. So I just say Rocky now. So I think everyone just like at some point like picks a movie and says, okay, when someone asks me that question, this is going to be it, and I don't care otherwise, because it's like an impossible question to answer.
I feel like it's like asking what your favorite food is, because at least for me it changes depending on what I'm in the mood for, or like, you know, sometimes you want to watch a comedy, sometimes you want to watch action stuff, like sometimes maybe a documentary, or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like what do I want these people to see me as right now?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yep.
like what's the coolest I can look by, you know, throwing a movie
Yeah.
out there.
And that's the real reason why I always pick Blade Runner 2049. It's so that people will think I'm cerebral.
I love it.
This is really random, but I know you guys talk about movies on your podcast, like the Doof cast. Any have you decided to go over any of the Fast and Furious movies, or possibly Fast and Furious 9, that masterpiece that just came out?
We did.
I just saw that with my husband, not ever having seen Fast and Furious before at all.
Oh my God.
You don't need to see Fast and Furious at all to see this movie. You just have to have it in your mind that it's gonna suck, and then you're golden.
But it's about family.
It's about family, and they yeah, it's absurd.
So
I mean,
we
it's
actually
so stupid.
did an episode on Fast and Furious years ago, but I
Yeah,
don't remember
episode
which
13
ones.
of the Doof cast.
I don't remember which ones we watched because we just called it. I think I watched them all because I love these movies, and you watched like 5.
Yeah.
and
I watched like the first 5 because you forced me to watch the first 5. No, it was a patron. A patron
Yes.
asked us to talk about the whole franchise, and I think for whatever reason that meant the first 5, and so that's what.
Yeah.
And I hadn't watched. I think I had watched literally none of them before, so I went from 0 to.
I'm just saying you might want to expand your mind a little bit into Fast and Furious 9.
I would love to do something. I haven't seen the movie yet because getting to the theater is really hard for me right now because of
That makes sense.
many human.
Can I just say though, like, because I know, yeah, like there's a bunch of memes and everything, especially since it just came out, but like family. I find that especially funny because like in the beginning of the movie, basically like meets up with the old gang. They like go to his house because for some reason they're in a farmhouse because I guess they were. I mean, I haven't seen any of the other movies, but I guess he was scarred. They were scarred for life and wanted to just live in the sticks, right? And he has this like little toddler who's super cute, and they're all like, okay, well, we found the person who killed like your son's mom, so we got to go to like South America or wherever the hell they went. And he was like, I don't know, because I have a son now. And then of course like thought about it overnight, and then immediately like I don't know, I guess he got a babysitter.
Yeah.
He just like straight up left to like South America, leaving his kid. It was like family.
So
Oh my god.
So this is the weird thing about Fast and Furious, and I love these movies. Don't get me wrong, but I really feel like they should have ended after the 7th movie, because the 7th movie is the one where the character of Brian is written off the show or off the movie because Paul Walker died, and it's this like it's this beautiful send off for the character and for the actor, and then it gets increasingly weird that he's still technically alive in the universe, but just like off screen somewhere. Like it just like there's this weird moment where Vin Diesel gets a son in the 8th movie and names it Brian, which is the name of Paul Walker's character, which like to us watching it, we get it's like, oh, you named the kid in honor of your friend who died, and it's really sad. But like in the universe of Fast and Furious, he's still alive, and you presumably see him on holidays. It's just like it's just weird. It's weird.
That's weird as hell. That's pretty damn weird.
Yeah.
And speaking of family, I mean, maybe I should just not say anything in case you guys really don't want to be spoiled.
I don't think it's possible to
fine.
care about
Okay, I mean,
spoilers in the Fast and the Furious.
You know,
movie.
family is so important, and yet we just find out, as far as I can tell, at least in Fast and Furious 9, he has a brother, a secret brother, who is John Cena.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't make you want to see this,
I mean, as far as I understand it, a car goes into outer space, in which case
a really jacked up looking car.
I'm
It's
there.
hilarious.
I'm there. I feel like the movie has become a meme of itself at this point. Like to going into space is just them acknowledging the meme, and I don't know if that's good for the series. Like I feel like the series was not self-aware. It took itself so seriously, and that's why it was fun. but now we're
Oh.
just memeing. I don't know. I
I
haven't
know
seen
they're
the movie.
self-aware. Like they brought up like one of the guys. I don't know any of their names. Again, I'm sorry. First one I've ever seen. Like this, but he basically is like, you guys realize, like, I think we can't die. I think we're immortal. And he's like, look at all this stuff we've gone through. Like we just drove through a minefield because they did that, of course, in the movie. Like the 8th movie, apparently they were running away from a submarine
That's
on
true.
glaciers, so they were talking about that. They're like, yeah, like we did all this, we should be dead. There's no scratch. Look at my jacket, there's bullet holes everywhere. I don't have a scratch. And then everyone else is just laughing at him, and he ends up going in the space, the space car, and he's like freaking out.
Space car.
But he's like, yeah, I guess we get to test and see if we're immortal. And
I don't like this.
spoilers, he ain't dead yet.
See, I don't like this. I don't like it. It can't be aware of itself. It has to take itself like incredibly seriously. That's the charm of it.
Scott, you're missing an opportunity here. This could end up like the Dark Tower, where there's like they find a way into the real world, and then like what's Vin Diesel's character's name?
Dominic Toretto. You disappoint me.
Dom meets Vin Diesel.
Okay,
like-
now you've
like-
got me.
Oh
You've
my
got me.
gosh.
And it's gonna be like the scene when Arnold's character meets Arnold in
Last Action Hero,
Last
the
Action
greatest,
Hero.
the greatest film ever made.
There's a lot of potential here, Scott. You're not.
That's pretty good. I don't know, like and the next one's the 10th one, which I saw some great like slogans, or really one slogan that people keep saying, which is like "Fast 10 your seatbelt."
Yeah, if it's not that, then what the fuck are we even doing anymore?
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, they have to do that. They're just throwing away money at that point.
Uh-huh.
But I was trying to talk with my husband about what we think the next one's going to be. I think it's going to be trying to remember. I had this whole like thing where I was like, he's going to travel, like time travel, because you have to do that now because it's just getting so ridiculous. Like they already went to space.
Yeah.
You got to do time travel. But he's going to get in like some serious accident. But luckily he's going to be fixed up in the future, but he's going to become a cyborg and he's going to find out that in the future they do cyborg races. So you have to like he's going to like jack up his body cyborg wise so that he can have like the super sweetest like cyborg car thing.
So,
and yeah.
So they use the NOS that like makes the cars go fast, but he uses it in his own body.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
This is the future. I love it. I've already purchased a ticket.
You've heard it here first, folks.
This is going to be a red line crossover.
Oh my god. How dare you bring up anime on this show? Yes, Alejandro says he has to race a DeLorean at some point, right? Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Like they got to put that in there. They're probably going to put something obscene like a rocket engine on it like they did this past movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally a car that they strapped a rocket engine on and like duct taped shit together, and it was the most like janky looking thing, and they shot that into space.
Yeah.
And
are you making the assumption that they did not do the science on this before they shot it? I can't believe it.
I'm so sorry. You're right.
They've got experts. They did the math.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the franchise better than I do, so I mean, I guess you said they've been taking themselves seriously every other time, so I guess they would actually get like legit physics and
like
things.
in Fast 5.
Not to mention
they dragged
actually
a giant
were using
safe.
duct tape, and they had like old like 60s diving gear.
Why?
Like for the sea. And they were using duct tape like just to get. But you're right. That
makes sense.
It's got to be good enough for NASA.
It's probably all real. Like they
it's
probably
probably
went to space.
Yeah. Vin Diesel and Tom Cruise both demand real stunts.
Yeah.
It was only 2 of them that went to space. Like Vin Diesel didn't go. But yeah, it was great.
Can't handle
Awesome.
the G's of that Vin Diesel. Right, Matt? Matt loves Vin Diesel.
I do love Vin Diesel. I mainly love Vin Diesel as Riddick, though.
Matt, if you had to meet one celebrity, would it be Vin Diesel?
If I had to do what to one celebrity?
What? Whoa!
Excuse me.
If you got to meet one
I
celebrity,
guess that was a Freudian
you freaking.
slip.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd love to meet Vin Diesel.
Which celebrity? Jenny. Which celebrity would you meet if you could meet one celebrity?
Damn it! Why do you pick me first?
Okay, Malia, go.
Ha! It worked, Malia.
I'm really awkward around celebrities.
How many celebrities have you been around to know that you're awkward around them?
That's a good question.
I've gone to like book signings and things for authors. I worked at the most popular ride at Disney World when I was working there. It was the most popular ride, but I missed everyone. I missed Idina Menzel. I missed Chris Evans. There was some football player that I saw, but I didn't know who he was.
Are you allowed to say what the most popular ride at Disney World was?
Yeah, it was the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
What?
So I worked on the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
So surprised.
Why?
It was 2015, so it was less than a year old. It turned a year old while I was working there, so it was just like because it was so new, it was really popular. And it's fun.
Gotcha.
Cute coaster. But yeah, so like people would come through the exit with like a person wearing plaid because they're like the guest relations people, and you try to figure out like, oh, who is that? Like they're fancy. And Joey Fatone accidentally hit my friend with a gate once. But I missed them all. But like when I meet authors or whatever, I'm usually super horrifyingly awkward. Like talking to Brandon Sanderson was hard. Dave Barry was the best. Dave Barry's one of my favorite.
Barry?
Yeah, he came to Austin in like 2014, and I feel like you've already got mad at me about this. But he's
I probably blocked it out. He's this really funny like comedy writer that wrote in Miami, right? Like
yeah, he was a humor columnist.
Miami
He's
Herald,
like
I think. Yeah.
one of our family's favorite authors. And he signed my book and like asked how to pronounce my name because it's uncommon. And when I clarified that it was Malia, he started singing to himself like Malia, Malia, I just met a girl named Malia, like from
West
Side Story.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote in my book to Malia, a goddess, Dave Barry, and I just like died. So he's perfect. But I didn't say much. I was just like, my book.
I feel like book signings and stuff are just like, it's never not going to be awkward because it's just like there's a huge line of people. They're seeing hundreds of people. You want to talk, but like, what can you say? It's just I don't know how those things could not be awkward.
It's kind of like a conveyor belt of people going by this one person that you're kind of like, I like you.
Yeah. You've been a huge part of my life. Oh, thanks. You. Good to see you. Good to see you.
So, Jay, who would you meet?
If I had to pick, just because I think that maybe Ryan Reynolds or Hugh Jackman, because they seem really funny. I feel like Hugh Jackman seems super nice. Ryan Reynolds probably is too, but he's freaking funny. I just have to say, Malia, like, I'm jealous of you actually meeting people that are somewhat. I have a lot of like, I almost met this person. If I like I almost went to the beach once. I think in Hawaii, like a lot of people like pool hop, like locals, which basically just means like you sneak into hotel pools, and pretend to be a tourist so that you can go down the slides or at least use their pools.
Brilliant.
They're a little more strict about that. But like I had to cancel, and then my friend at the time told me that like that was when Brittany and Justin were staying there and they saw them. Like Britney Spears, and then I went to Flatbreads, which is this restaurant. I'm still really mad about this. Owen Wilson apparently was standing right behind me and ordered a pizza. No one fucking bothered to tell me until he left.
Wow.
Like he was right there. And it was like a big table I was with like 13 people. So all 12 people saw Owen Wilson except for me. I'm still really mad.
Did y'all see the interview that someone had with Owen Wilson, where he was talking about his working with Hiddleston on Loki, and like Hiddleston made a quote, and Owen Wilson was like, "Is that Shakespeare?" And Hiddleston is like, "Yeah, Hamlet." And he's like, "Oh, did you ever play Hamlet?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, Kenneth Branagh directed me in the Globe or something ridiculous." And then there was apparently this awkward pause where Hiddleston goes, "How about you? Have you ever played Hamlet?" And Owen Wilson was like, "That's the first time someone has ever asked me if I played in Shakespeare."
That's so funny. I knocked my mic over. Okay. Sorry,
That's
guys.
so pure.
And
I know.
and had he?
No.
That would be great. Now I want him to play Hamlet.
I know,
Yeah.
that would be wonderful.
I would watch that.
I would definitely watch that. That would be...
Have I told my Bill Clinton story on a Doof and Chill before?
I don't think so. I don't
Wait,
think you've told me your
it's-
Bill Clinton story.
I might have. Well, so it's just me and my family when I was a kid. I must have been like 11, and Daniel would have been like 5 or 6. We went to Paris for vacation, and Daniel got lost climbing the stairs to the top of Notre Dame Cathedral. So little baby Daniel was like lost wandering the streets of Paris, basically. And then when we find him in the street, weeping outside of the cathedral, he's like, "I saw Bill Clinton," and we're like, "What?" And he's like, "Bill Clinton, he was over there." And we basically didn't believe him. We were just like, "Yeah, sure, Daniel." And then we like found a restaurant we were eating and saw this commotion outside, and Bill Clinton comes walking down the middle of the street with like tons of Parisians like taking pictures of him and fawning and waving, and he's waving. And
That's amazing.
it's not like I met him, but it's still
I mean,
an anecdote is what that is.
That's great.
Yeah. Scott, who would you meet?
Stephen King, definitely.
That's fair.
But not like I wouldn't want to just do like, because I would want to like talk to him for an hour. Like Stephen King, your hours are worth millions of dollars. Please spend one of them talking to me about your work. That would be great.
My mom works for a podiatrist named Stephen King. If that's good for you,
Sweet. Let's do it. Let's set it up. I mean,
I wouldn't do that. I mean, he's a nice enough guy, but he would just talk about his boot. He's been trying to like invent some boot to like apparently it's can step on nails and all that kind of stuff and protect your foot, but like he's really, really obnoxious about it to where even if it's a good product, like he's scared away everybody like from buying this damn boot. So like he will talk to patients about it. Like he'll like talk about their complaint for like 5 minutes, and then he'll just go into this like rant about his boot for like way longer than.
I feel like he needs to use his name to get some meetings with some money people.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. Endorsed by Stephen King.
Yeah. I would think it would be great, Matt, if we had an episode of Kingslingers that said with guest Stephen King. Like so many people would click on that.
It would be the most disliked video in the history of YouTube.
That is true.
Like technically the truth is the best kind.
Yeah.
And
then he just talks about the boot the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
the whole
And
fucking time.
It's just an ad for his boot, actually.
Everyone just assumes The Boot is the name of a new book that Stephen King is working on.
Yeah. An exclusive.
I believe it. Yeah.
He spells his name with a V though, so
Oh no!
I know that's
Worthless.
I know. Damn it.
We can't work with that. I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys.
The whole idea is off now. We kind of deviated from our question list. Scott, did you have any questions that you were burning to ask from this list?
I guess, do y'all play video games at all? Or board games? Do y'all have like a favorite board game or video game?
I don't know who wants to go first. I have a favorite board game that I try to push on everyone. So I really like cooperative games because I get really competitive and really angry. So when like games like Pandemic came out, it was really exciting. Like, oh, we all work together. And my favorite one, kind of currently, I guess, is Mysterium. It's like a combination of Clue and it's like collaborative Clue, but one person is dead and they're sending dreams to the other players to try to like tell them who killed them. So they can't talk, and it's really fun.
I think
highly
I played
recommend.
that one before.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I think my sister-in-law, who's like obsessed with board games, has made us play that before.
I like that one.
Sounds pretty fun.
Cool.
I think my favorite board game is one that you got me, which is Betrayal at House on the Hill. It's really fun, and I'm always the traitor.
Always.
It's basically like you're searching this like creepy old house that has like a bunch of creepy stuff in it. And at a certain point, depending on like how your game's going and which character you choose and all that, there's like the traitor that comes out, and it's all on chance, and sometimes there's no traitor. Every time I've played, like every single time, I've been the traitor. So if I ever play that, I mean, yeah, we'll see.
See, I'm never good at those type of games because whenever I'm the traitor or the secret Hitler or whatever, I just get so nervous I fuck it up.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, I almost always like read over it too fast and miss like some key points, and then I kind of realize while we're playing, like, oh, it would have been a lot like more strategic if I were to have done this instead. But I've still won. Like,
I was gonna say you still often win.
I still often win. Yeah.
But yeah, because it's not a secret who the traitor is. They go into another room with this booklet and read their directions and all
okay.
that stuff. So you don't have to like.
Yeah,
pretend.
it's like you both have like, it's like the team against you kind of. So like, yeah, if you have different directives, like that, you're supposed to follow
Sure.
in order to win. And a lot of time, and it always gives like a little paragraph about like how psycho you are, which is just hilarious because it's like, oh, like I'm really hungry and just want to eat everyone, or I don't know.
What?
It's like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm probably not selling this game that well with that statement in mind, but it's really, really fun. Do you play Steam games, Malia? Like computer games and stuff, or? Okay.
What's the best game you played recently?
I mean, Hades,
Yeah.
which I'm trying to get Jen to play, and she hasn't done it yet.
Do you have any idea how many Steam games I have in my library that I haven't played yet?
Well, I recommend playing Hades on Switch, but and God, what is it called? There's a game I started playing where you're like building a little medieval village and you're trying to like grow the population, and it's not the one that just came out. It's something else. I don't remember. So obviously had a huge impact on me. My favorite video game of all time is probably Sim Theme Park, or Theme Park World, I think is what it was called in other countries. I found like an illegal version of it that I can play on my computer, and it doesn't hold up quite as well as I remember, but it's still a really fun game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah. What are all the games you're always trying to get me to play, Jen?
What was that?
Jen's always trying to get me to play like Slime Hunter or Slime
Rancher.
Slime Rancher.
I've seen
It's
that game
adorable.
before.
Okay, it's really cute. It's like a stress-free, like little cartoony thing. I have a lot of games I like to play. I tend to stay away from multiplayer games, especially things that require a mic, because
the internet.
The internet, yeah. I've had
Understandable.
like, the few times that I've tried in like high school, very unpleasant comments. So it has
Can't imagine.
yeah, at least if you sound like a woman, it's not fun. So I tend to stay away from those. But probably like one of my favorite games is called This War of Mine, and it's kind of depressing in a way, but it's really, really good. It's basically you're playing as you kind of switch between, like, depending on how many people you kind of choose in your house or whatever, like 2 to 4, I think, people kind of living together in this like war-torn city, and you're just kind of trying to survive. So it's because most of the time I feel like war games are about like, oh, you're a soldier, you're trying to like kill people and stuff. Like you're just trying to survive in the city. So you have to find like supplies and try to make it through like these 40 days without your people getting killed, basically. But it's very interesting, and well, at least it can be kind of depressing though. So, but
I've heard really good things about that one. I've never played it myself, but I've heard about it.
It's really good.
You
it's
guys...
really fun. It's not very easy, or either that or I suck at it. But like that's fine. Games are fun. You don't have to be good at everything.
Yeah. You guys played God of War, right, Matt? Matt?
Well, yeah. Eventually.
Matt's obsessed with
I've
God
never,
of War.
I'm fascinated. I just looked up this War of Mine because I hadn't heard of it, but the premise sounds really compelling, actually.
Mm-hmm. It's really good. I don't know if you would like that though, Malia. It might be a little bit too much, but like, I recommend people looking into that though, because I really like it. It's a lot of replayability too. I just get really irritated if I'm going on a night raid and I get somebody killed that I liked, and then it's like, I have to either start over or just keep going. And,
Wow, that sounds great. I love that idea.
Cool. What else do we got?
Yeah, I feel like we've asked a lot of media related questions.
Yeah. Let's move away from those.
Yeah, what's your go-to? I don't know if this is an Australian expression or if this is just... What's your go-to cook-up food?
Yeah, what does that mean? Is Elliot still here? Elliot, what are your words?
When I read that, I was like, is this like a coding thing? Is like go-to cook-up food? Is this...
like a cookout?
Okay, or I think the way I interpret it is just like, you've got to cook something on short notice. What is it?
Yeah, I think that's a fair interpretation based on the Googling I just did.
If I have to throw something together real quick, probably be something with pasta, just because you can kind of throw in a bunch of stuff together. It's filling, relatively cheap. I don't have a dish in mind, but just if I'm cooking stuff, which this is kind of random, but like, so my husband went to get his master's in Aberdeen in Scotland, and during his like orientation thing in this program, they spent like a week trying to like get to know each other and kind of bond, I guess, before getting into the real academia. And one of the things that they did was like, I mean, this is not like that exciting of an activity, but they basically had to like decide like what to cook for dinner together, like they're making spaghetti or something. And so they each picked an ingredient to throw in, and someone picked corn to throw into spaghetti, and everyone acted like it was the most normal thing ever. Like, of course you'd have corn and spaghetti.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've heard of that before.
Yeah, like what? Like that's not a common thing in America, at
No.
least, to use corn. You'd be kind of looked at like a psychopath.
Yeah.
People would judge you.
Yeah.
I would. But just reminded me of that. I do not put corn in my spaghetti. That's what I'm trying to say. But like anything else.
It's good, because we would have had to have a meeting after this.
For some reason, that sounds terrible. Like, I think it's like the sweetness of it's like you just have like add some carbs to your carbs, I guess.
Like, just like why? Why do you need corn in your spaghetti? Like, just if you need something yellow, put some cheese in there. You know, I don't know. Like cheddar cheese is kind of weird, I guess, but better than corn. Like you gotta choose. I mean,
Alejandro says, "I'll only accept it if you pierce a bunch of corn pieces with the raw spaghetti and then cook it like that."
Yeah.
That would just. I mean,
he made it simultaneously better and worse.
Yeah, it really It
At least
really
this
is.
way, it sort of seems like exotic cuisine instead of just a mistake.
I mean, it just points more to like some problems at home. I feel like what's wrong with you? Like, I don't know.
Have
Like,
y'all
do we
seen?
need to talk?
There's those
We need
people.
some therapy immediately.
There's people going viral on the internet for doing like counter spaghetti on TikTok or something, where they just like pour an entire meal on their counter and they call it family style,
Oh,
and then
my
it's the most infuriating thing I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
There's
it's
a lot of silly food related stuff on TikTok and
Yeah.
so forth.
Yeah.
It's kind of brilliant though, because you get everyone to react to it incredulously, and then that means it gets boosted and more people see it.
That's true.
That's true.
Mhm.
I just wonder, like, if they know what kind of materials they're using. I saw a video once where someone used like cut up garbage bags. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not food safe. Like,
Gross.
pretty sure you're getting plastic leached into your food, and you're
Gross.
just eating gross garbage spaghetti. Because that was spaghetti too. Poor spaghetti.
That's a bad idea. Don't
Yeah.
do that, folks. PSA.
Don't do that.
One
yeah,
time-
takes-
One time, some people made, I think it was an ice cream float in a toilet. They made it in a toilet.
Okay.
Why?
Ew.
Why?
I don't know, because it's 2021 and this is what we do now.
Okay, please tell me at least that like it was just like and never been used like empty toilet thing that
Nobody
was used as a bowl
Can
at
say
least.
for sure.
I mean that's
How clean would you need to make a toilet before you made a ice cream float in it? Is
it
there?
would have to have been never been used like literally like not connected to plumbing.
So
Be
there's
literally like
there's
a bowl
no
that-
level of cleanliness of a pre-used toilet that you would make an ice cream
Oh
float
hell
in.
no. And
think
eat
if
it? How much
if you-
money am I getting along with this? Like, is this like an astronomical, life-changing amount of money along with the ice cream toilet bowl?
Would you
'Cause-
eat an ice cream toilet bowl for $1 million?
If you like autoclaved it and bleached it, then sure. But
No, you don't get to know. You don't get to
You
know.
don't do that.
Can you,
you don't get to
can you
autoclave.
at least not have the water in it?
Yeah, we'll give you that. No water. The toilet has been drained and then
Is
promptly
it your
filled.
own family toilet, or is this just like
Oh
a
my
public
God.
toilet?
It is not a public restroom. That's the best I can do.
What is happening?
Do you get to pick? Do you get to pick your flavors?
Look, we scared David away.
Yeah, people are leaving.
Good
now.
job, everyone.
I'm sorry, guys.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Uh,
I don't know if I can answer that.
What place do you most want to visit?
Like that we haven't visited before, I guess.
you
Or
can
you
maybe
could
go
pick
back,
a place
yeah.
that you visited before that you would love to go back to, I suppose. That would also tell us something about you, which is, after all, the point of this.
That's true.
That's why I asked the toilet question, Matt, and you got upset with me.
Oh,
mean-
I think New Zealand. Lord of the Rings is one of the other go-tos for my favorite movie. Yeah, I just would really love to see New Zealand.
That'd be really neat.
Yeah.
I'm trying to eventually. My family, at least immediate family, we're gonna go on a trip someday to Lithuania, because that's where my husband's from, and that's my son's not really speaking yet, but if he speaks anything, it's in Lithuanian. So, just to kind of see the culture a little bit better, and I feel like it'd be kind of neat to see where their roots are from. My probably favorite trip that I've been on was when I went to see you, Malia, when you were studying in Germany. Also, she speaks some German, which is really great if you suck at language like me. So she talked to everybody. Like,
Well, one of the things that was interesting was I think Jenny and the other people around me overestimated my German. We were on a train to Rome or something, and we were going through Switzerland. I feel like I'm making all this up. Anyway, there's
no, I
people
think
who
you're telling the
speak
truth.
German, and I was kind of following what was going along. Also, all the old people who speak to you on public transportation in Germany who insist on speaking to you in German, their English is better than your German, and they will correct you when you translate them like incorrectly to your sister, who's like, "What are they saying?" And you're like, "I don't know what they're saying." But you can't say that, and then when you try, and then they're like, "Oh, actually, I said this," and they correct you in German about your English, and you're just like, "I don't know what to do." So that was fun, but. I went to Germany by myself a couple of years ago, and I actually could get around without people switching to English, and I was just like thrilled because I was worried I'd lost it all. But lots of like smiling and nodding and like, awesome.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
I've
a fun
been-
trip.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've been trying to learn Lithuanian, but like I'm not very good at it, and I keep on mixing up some stuff with Spanish, not because it sounds anything similar to it, but just because people speak Spanish around here. So I'll be like, oh, like Miko, mas maestas, like trying to be like more food, but then mas isn't a word. And so it's like, yeah, I'm just confusing my child.
The 3 languages I learned Spanish in high school and then German in college, and then I took a couple of like sign language classes, and it was fascinating that like sign is one of the ones where if I can't remember the word in one of the languages, like sometimes I'll sign it, or if I'm signing, sometimes I'll say a word in German when I can't remember the sign, and it's like really weird. Like the brain is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Y'all are
yeah.
very linguistically.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm being forced into it. Like, I mean, I want to. It's not like I don't want to, but like my brain, yeah, I do not have a heart. Malia is very much more linguistically talented than I am, for sure.
The thing with Lithuanian too is just that like there's a whole lot of sounds in Lithuanian that are very different from like English or a lot of languages that people in the US are exposed to. Vitalis, Jenny's husband, will correct me when I try to say something in Lithuanian, and I cannot hear the difference.
Sounds
it's like
the
with
same.
it's like with Mandarin, how there's different like tones that I can't hear, but apparently that's the thing. With Lithuanian, there's just certain sounds that I'm like, I don't hear the difference. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Languages are crazy. It's so weird how that works. Because yeah, I'm sure it just sounds wrong to a native speaker. It's just like that just doesn't sound right. But being able to explain that difference to a person, yeah, wild.
Yeah, I learned recently. Now I don't remember the actual details, but I remember basically it's like there's basically 2 different ways you can make the S sound, and like half of English speakers make it one way and half of English speakers make it the other way, or something like that. I'm butchering this, but like the point was like I was like, that's interesting because I've always been like mildly self-conscious of my S sound, because I'm like, I don't think it sounds like the way it's supposed to, and I'm like, maybe I'm just putting my tongue in the wrong place. Probably am, but I don't understand, because like that's what it comes down to. Like there's like a Japanese phoneme that's like an L or an R sound, and it's like just slightly different placement of the tongue, which a native speaker can hear, and we just hear it as the same sort of sound. But yeah, I don't know. Languages are interesting, but I have a complex about them. So I just speak English. Sorry, everyone.
They're hard. Like, yeah. I thought, yeah. I just have to tell this because this is embarrassing, but it's kind of funny. So I've been a nurse for about 6 years now. And you know, I've been in Texas pretty much that whole time, and a lot of Spanish speakers. So over time, I learned like how to say, "Hi, like I'm Jenny, I'm your nurse," essentially, and like say a couple things like, "Oh, like how's your pain?" And so I thought I was being really awesome, and I felt really good about myself, you know, because I'd be like, "Yeah, I I mean, I can't say that much, but at least I can go and be like, "Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm your nurse." And so I would go in and be like, "Hola, me llamo Jenny. Está tu enferma?" Which, if you guys know Spanish, you know that that's actually not the word for nurse.
Huh?
I didn't realize. Yeah. So the word for nurse, I think, is enfermera, which is really freaking close. I only found out like last year. Just that little difference. I had been telling everyone I was sick.
Yeah.
Said, like, "Hi, I'm sick."
Hi, I'll be taking care of you. By the way, I am
I
sick.
know.
Everyone had just been really nice and kind of like smiled and been like, "Okay," until some lovely patient finally was just like, like, you know that infirmera is nurse, yeah, and just so many
no.
years of cringe, just like, I thought I was the coolest person too, and just like,
Avalanche of cringe all in one moment.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
it was real bad.
I'm sure they appreciated the effort though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like anytime I've traveled anywhere that I can't speak at all, like I try to learn some things just to survive. And like I went to Scandinavia for my honeymoon, and they all speak like they speak better English than we do in like every Scandinavian country.
I
And
can
like
buy
if
that,
you
yeah.
like if you start trying to speak Swedish, they'll immediately know that you don't speak it, and they'll just speak to you in English. Like, but they appreciate, like, that's like when I went to, everyone says in France they're the worst, right? That like they're jerks about it. But like my experience I had in France was like if you try to speak French, they'll usually just switch to English and talk to you just fine. They just like want you to try. Like if you walk up to them and start speaking or English, or just ask, "Do you speak English?" That's when they get pissy. But if you like try,
Uh-huh.
they're usually pretty nice about it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's understandable. I mean,
Mhm.
it's weird because it's actually hard for me to put myself in their position as an American. Like, if somebody walked up to me and started speaking German to me on the street, I'd just be like, what is happening?
Yeah.
You know? Whereas like as a traveling American, you just kind of know that you're gonna be able to find somebody who can speak your language
That's
pretty easily.
yeah. I mean, we're terrible, and like everywhere else is better. Like Europe, everyone in Europe like speaks English now. Like I think
Yeah.
all of Germany, they all learn English. Like I think all Scandinavia, they all learn. It's like everywhere learns English now, and we don't learn shit. We
Well,
learn like a little bit of
They
Spanish.
really should start trying to teach like different languages younger, because
Yeah.
I feel like high school is really hard to learn something fluently.
It's too
you know?
late. Yeah, like I took 4 years of Spanish, and I mean, I can like if I see stuff written down, I can get like I can't speak it, and I can't like I can pick up
Yeah.
one word in 4 if someone's talking it to me, but
I think the way that we go about it in America is not even the way that you would go about it if you wanted fluency.
yeah,
Like you said, you're
Mhm.
learning vocabulary and you can puzzle it out if it's written in front of you. But being able to think in it and speak in it fluidly is
Yeah.
totally different and requires totally different methodology, which we don't use, and that's because we're we don't have any borders with
Yeah.
anyone who speaks any language other than Spanish.
yeah.
And
True.
yeah, well, it's not an excuse. It's just like that's
It's-
why
it's
that's
the
why we
reason,
don't
yeah,
bother. I think.
yeah.
Mhm. Would make it a little easier, but
Yeah.
yeah.
My older
Um,
sister just became like fluent in Spanish over the past few years. She took Spanish all throughout high school and was pretty good at it. But then I guess part of her midlife crisis was, I'm gonna become fluent, and she just joined. Apparently, there's all these WhatsApp groups that like it's just like you find Spanish people wanting to learn English, and English speakers wanting to learn Spanish, and they just like get together in a WhatsApp chat, and they just speak languages and teach each other by doing. And she's fluent now. She just got back went to
Dang.
Colombia to meet up with some friends she met through this
Wow.
thing, and spent a week in Colombia, and it's pretty
Awesome.
cool.
Good
yeah.
for her. That's great.
Yeah.
Jeez. That's really awesome. That's hard.
Yeah. All right. Do we have any more of these we want to ask? We apparently these are questions that we stole from Wildbow from a previous Q&A. Some of these are fun. We'll ask some of these. Matt,
Yeah.
which one should we ask
I,
here?
I want to ask, if you were sent back to the Stone Age, what would the plan be? I feel like we're gonna learn a lot about you here.
Yeah,
Oh, dude.
I would probably just die.
Yeah, so I always think like I can't be a spy and I can't be a superhero. I can't be a spy because my ankles crack and I'm really bad at lying. So I couldn't sneak anywhere and everyone would just see right through me. And I can't be a superhero because I have contacts, right? So I can't just like get up in the morning and do things. And I'm also allergic to pillows and just like a bunch of stuff, like not in a way where I'm going to die, but just in a way where like I have to take this like big heavy memory foam pillow with me everywhere because it's the only pillow I've tried that doesn't make me like break out in this rash on my face. And I have scleral lenses, which I haven't met anyone else who's heard of these yet. I hadn't heard of them, and I've been wearing contacts since I was 13. But so they're these like, they're kind of like gas permeable lenses, like the hard contacts, and they're specifically made for my eye. So they had to do these like crazy maps of my eye, and then they like make this computer generated thing and they send it to a lab, and I have to like fill it up with fluid and like stick it on my eye and I have to use a suction cup to get it off. It's just like really extreme, and this
Wow.
is like the closest I can get to 20/20 vision is with this like ridiculous setup or whatever, because I actually have bad astigmatism. When you go to the eye doctor and you say you have astigmatism, they roll their eyes. And when I do it, they roll their eyes and then they look at the chart and they're like, oh, wow. My friend said I should go get a second opinion once because he was like, yeah, I don't think that's possible. And I was like, no, I promise. That's the number. So I think I'd get really depressed because I'd have to get used to not being able to see, which is just really awful and hard. I'd also be really afraid of a lot of the plants because like tree resin is a thing I'm allergic to.
Oh gosh.
But I I'd try to find a cave that didn't have bugs in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the honest answer is usually like try to find a pleasant place to die. For everyone really, but I think, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the fun thing about this question is I think we all like to think that we would take our amazing future knowledge and find a way to just be awesome, but
Yeah.
we don't know how to survive in a world that isn't our world.
Could use
I
this
don't-
as a club, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, like I don't know how to identify edible plants, right? Because even a lot of stuff that we eat has been like genetic, or not even like genetically modified necessarily, but just like bred
Bread.
Yeah.
over
Mhm.
time. My boyfriend's mom really, really loves Outlander, and she was watching it. I saw a little bit of it or whatever, because it's like this nurse from World War I or World War II or whatever who goes back to 200 years ago in Scotland or whatever. And so she's talking about like, you know, cleaning the wound and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I know some stuff about that, but it doesn't help if you don't have, you know, stuff to disinfect it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like Jenny would do a little bit better because she knows more about health.
I mean, maybe I might do a little bit better with some things like splinting and all that, but
You try to teach them about germs and they'd call you a witch and probably kill you.
yeah, it'd be like, let's see if she floats, and then I'd drown. They'd be like, oh, well, too bad.
Yeah.
I guess she would have. I don't know. Or I swim and I get burned alive. Yeah, I don't know. Not a good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would try to use medical knowledge, but I don't have a real great knowledge of like medicinal plants, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't
Yeah,
think
I would just be like, try to wash your hands, people. I don't know. That's like the main thing. Like for the longest time, they like just would not wash their hands like in between patients, you know, and like that was one of the things Florence Nightingale, you know, OG nurse, woo. She like was, I think, the first main person to be like, hey, you guys should disinfect your tools and wash your hands, and they were like, ugh. But then they're like, oh wow, infection people aren't dying as
Oh,
much.
they should die.
Yeah, maybe we should actually do this. So
Yeah. It's truly
I-
hilarious how long it took human beings to figure out stuff like don't poop upstream of where you drink.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you'd kind of hope that'd be like inherent like knowledge, but
I mean,
yeah,
you
I
would
guess we
think,
just
right?
don't care.
Like, I feel like animals know this information, but
Yeah.
it's not.
No, how are we still alive?
That's the cost of losing our instincts as
Yeah.
we make terrible decisions. I want us to do like a Doof sponsored short story anthology where every story is like somebody's attempt to go back in time with future knowledge and then fail in a new and interesting way each time and still end up dead.
That's a great
That would be
idea.
really-
That's a great
That's
idea.
a great idea.
Because, like, I mean,
Yeah.
like, what percentage of the human population today would actually be able to survive? Like, it's got to be less than 1, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's a handful of people that
Yeah.
actually have enough knowledge to where they would be able to survive, but like,
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't get to
tiny.
bring tools back and it's just based on knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to just have really excellent wilderness survival because, like,
Yeah,
somebody like me, I can tell a story about how I'm going to figure out how to build some kind of device out of my engineering knowledge, and it's like, no, you're not. Not out of like wood and rocks. But it
Yeah.
would make a fun story to see me try to do that while starving to death and failing.
yeah.
So that's why it's a fun story premise.
Okay, so there's Bear Grylls, and we know he's BS, right? Like that. But there's the other one. There was another like wilderness survival guy who had a show at the same time that Bear Grylls had a show. Only his show was like real, and it was just him alone in places. I think that guy could make it.
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't remember who you're talking about, but I know that. I mean, obviously, I know there are people who know how to live off the land.
Yeah.
And make traps, trap rabbits and stuff like that.
My delusion that I could do this completely went away after I watched that movie Into the Wild. Do you remember that movie, Matt? It's like a
Yeah.
disillusioned kid in college who just like decides that the only way he'll be happy is just journeying across country and then like diving into the wilderness of, I think it was Alaska.
It's
Oh,
Alaska,
that's
and
a
then
terrible idea.
he just eats he eats some wild potatoes, and they just happen to be like super deadly,
Yeah.
and it's like and he it's a true story, yeah, and then he
Yeah, he dies.
dies because he ate these
Yeah. Well,
wild potatoes.
he
It's
goes
like,
out into the wilderness,
No.
and then the river that he crossed to get where he was in the late winter melts and gets more powerful to the point where he can't cross it, so he's trapped and he's out of food, and he like in the movie they made it seem like his wilderness survival book, like 2 pages were stuck together, so he missed the page that was like poisonous, do not eat. I'm sure that's not how it happened in real life. It just he was starving and desperate and was like, I need food. And then once you get sick, like he couldn't keep anything else. Yeah, it's an awful story, but
Random fun fact, since I am full of those. Potatoes, especially at least green ones, like when they're young, they contain solanine, which is a relative to cyanide.
Mhm.
So if you eat green potatoes, like if they're not quite ripe, or if they're, I guess, starting to sprout, they can make you real sick or kill you. So he probably got a lot of solanine
yeah, probably.
from. Anyway,
It's
that's all I wanted
wild.
to say.
It's wild
Yeah.
how much shit out there can just very easily kill us.
Just like murder the crap out of you. Yeah.
All right, so let's set this anthology story thing. I want to read these. That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, I've had this idea for a couple of weeks actually, but this is here we just announced it. There you go.
First, we got to find a way to read all these Stephen King stories
Yeah,
before we
gotta
move
prove
on
that
to
we
the
can
next
at least
thing.
do that first,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been an hour and a half. I think we're out of question. If anyone in the audience has any questions for Malia and Jenny, if not, we can wrap this thing up.
Okay.
This is the
Like-
part where it's awkward because there's lag
Yeah.
between.
I love awkward lag.
It's great. It's the
That's
best.
super sweet.
Yeah, It's very cool. But it's nice that now we live in a world where everyone is used to this, because
Yeah.
everyone's life is full of awkward lag all the time, and people dropping out or being on mute, and it's actually gone from being like awkward to just being like, yeah, you're on mute. It's fine. It happens.
True.
It's not even awkward anymore. It's just like, yeah, whatever. Sometimes it happens.
Malia, how was law school during this whole thing?
Hard. It's so yeah. So I had a whole semester and then a half of a semester, and then the pandemic started. So that semester, all of our classes went to pass fail, which is kind of a big deal because your GPA is pretty important in law school.
Yeah.
But it was just like, hey, this just isn't fair for a lot of people. Like, people have families, people, whatever, their lives are falling apart. And so everybody's pass fail. We all got on Zoom, and all of our exams became open internet, open everything, because like there was no way to guarantee that we weren't cheating somehow, basically. So all the professors had to like structure their exams around that, which was fun.
But isn't that, I don't know, I feel like with law, like you're never going to be in a position where you can't look something up. So like, yeah, shouldn't that be the case anyway?
Law school is interesting in a lot of the ways it evaluates us, and also very old and traditional, and it's hard to break out of a lot of that stuff. I think that the legal writing classes, the way that we're evaluated, is the one that makes me the most angry, just in terms of like, I will never have a brief that I'm writing alone, and yet you are evaluating me based on whether or not I can write this brief without even asking the professor clarifying questions. It was just like absolutely infuriating, but I survived. Like a lot of people I know bought, I have an extra monitor, or a monitor that I bought during the pandemic. People have all these setups. We all have like ring lights and all that crap. But it's weird going back because so my year had, just over a half of law, like a real normal first year of law school experience. And as a 1L, you're really babied because it's really overwhelming. And so with like student organizations and all of these things, they're just like, oh, show up to events, but like literally you don't have to do anything. And then 2Ls are the ones who have to do everything because the 3Ls are all burnt out. But now we're in a situation where none of the 2Ls had real law school. I mean, like they all survived their classes, but in terms of like organizations and journals and the culture and where are the rooms in the law school? Like they don't know any of that. And then there's a bunch of 1Ls. So it's like our class who had not even a full year of law school. Like I have to plan a banquet for 2 different organizations that I never got to go to because they were canceled and then they didn't happen last year. So it's just this like really weird thing where like the 3Ls are all exhausted, but we all have to like make the school function. But in terms of just like class and stuff, I guess I got used to it relatively quickly. Yeah, you're going to be graded, so you have to pay attention or something. I don't know.
Sure.
Did your classes require your camera to be on?
It depended on the class. I don't think I ever had anyone that was like absolutely required, but for some of my smaller classes especially, they were kind of like, please turn them on.
Yeah. Because I don't turn mine on for work meetings unless someone specifically tells me I have to. I don't do it.
Yeah, I kind of liked the accountability. I mean, so sometimes it was distracting to see myself, but often it was kind of like, okay, they could maybe see me if I'm not paying attention, and that helped with like my personal accountability. But yeah, mostly just the small classes. They were like, hey, please. But often if it was like lagging, they'd be like, everybody turn your cameras off.
Sure. Tweed Tests asks, what is your favorite Doof podcast? Or if you don't want to answer that, podcast in general.
It's hard.
So that is really hard. I think my favorite podcast, or this is the one I recommend to people because they often haven't heard of it. There's a podcast called the British Museum Podcast. Whatever they're doing with it now is bad, but the first 6 episodes of the British Museum Podcast are some of the most incredible podcast episodes I've ever heard. There's the first 2 are a 2-part series called The Suicide Exhibition. Not about suicide, it's about the fact that it was about what happened to the British Museum during World War II. And they have a whole episode about the cats of the British Museum. It's just a really wonderfully produced several episodes. And now whatever they do is boring and weird. But
yeah, it was just literally 2 episodes, right? And then after that it got weird.
Yeah, it was a 2-parter. There was one about cats. I think there might have been another one. And then it just turned into oh, what's happening in the museum? Blah blah blah. Not boring.
Interesting.
I feel like it's too hard to ask about favorite Doof podcast.
No, that's fine. I mean,
okay.
we all know it's obviously the one, any one that I'm in, but you don't have to.
I feel kind of silly saying this after Malia was just Jenny likes all the weird stuff like Verona, but hey, whatever. I don't know if you guys have heard of Dr. Death, but it's a really, really freaking good podcast, but it also kind of will freak you the fuck out.
That guy lived in Dallas, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah. I think it was a few hospitals in Dallas and maybe Houston, but I think mainly Dallas. Basically about this neurosurgeon who got top marks in med school, had a fellowship, had good reviews and all that, seriously injured and killed quite a few people just from blatant terrible malpractice, bad, really, really bad. And kind of talks about how some people, some other neurosurgeons caught on trying to fix his mistakes basically, and were this guy is terrible, and how difficult it was to actually get him out, to stop operating on people. It was real hard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a paragraph summary for how a physician gets, awards for being good and then turns out to actually be terrible? That's confusing to me.
I think in his case he did a lot of research, he did many hours of research, and he got signed off on a lot more clinical hours than he actually put in. He didn't actually do that many clinical type hours. In terms of a short summary of why it took so long, the hospitals were covering for him because they didn't want to get in trouble themselves because it was going to cost them money, essentially.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've worked for many hospitals in the IT departments, and that does not surprise me at all, that attitude. I've been in compliance meetings where we're discussing how are we going to handle this? And I'm emailing my boss should we be concerned about their approach here?
I know. I mean, there's a lot of most doctors are really good, or at least are going to try. They're trying to help the patient, right? So most of the time they're at least trying to do good. Whereas the thing is, this guy, I think he was just kind of delusional. He thought he was good, but he just really blatantly jacked people up bad.
Yeah. They're making a TV show about that's based off the podcast, which is based off.
Are they really?
Yeah. I think Pacey from Dawson's Creek is playing Dr. Death, Joshua Jackson.
Really?
Yeah.
Fun.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah. They have a second season of Dr. Death too, I guess, about a different doctor, but I haven't listened to that one yet.
How
But
many Dr. Deaths are there?
Sounds fascinating.
there are, unfortunately, I mean, again, most people in the medical profession go into it to try to help people.
Sure.
And I'd like to think, as asshole-ish as some doctors can be, most, like, I mean, some of them are really nice too, but like most are trying to do what's best for the patient,
Mhm.
even if they're being a dick about it or have a big ego. But you'll get some that I can't really say much about this person because of HIPAA, but I've personally taken care of someone who got put in jail for killing quite a few people, who was in the medical field, and it's difficult.
Wow.
But yeah, I have to be pretty vague about that. But if you get someone in the right position or the wrong position, they can do an awful lot of harm, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense. I mean, there's a big human tendency to be in denial about your mistakes, and
Mhm.
you can imagine something like that snowballing.
Yeah. And the person I'm thinking of in particular, they hurt people on purpose so that they could try to save them.
Wow.
Okay.
And they
Wow.
were not always good at saving people
Yeah.
from
That's
the medicine that they gave.
Gosh.
And
that's
so
awful.
quite a lot of people died from it.
seems like a whole nother type of problem.
Yeah, it was real bad. I think I talked to you about that before, Malia. That was pretty vague, right? I
Mhm.
think that's pretty vague. Okay. Trying to be like real, like, but yeah, it's a, I don't know.
Yeah.
Medicine
reminds me of
and nursing's weird.
Lawyers too. Like bad counsel can really fuck you up, and fuck up your life.
Yeah.
And it happens mostly to people who don't have the resources, to like have other options and stuff. Because I'm working in the juvenile justice system right now. We're doing like habeas petitions and appeals, and a lot of our claims are like ineffective assistance of counsel claims, to basically saying like, oh, their trial lawyer was shit. And that's just like such a huge field, because like these people, maybe they're poor or whatever, and just don't have like access to stuff, but also just like the legal system really wears people down and is really exhausting, and like a lot of public defenders and stuff don't have a lot of support. It's just kind of like a bad, unfortunate cycle.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all ever there was a sequel to Serial that was not about any individual case, but I think it was just the Sarah Koenig like spent a year in like a Baltimore courtroom, like learning about all the different trials and cases that were going on over the course of that year. And it's like listening to her talk, it's like a nightmare. Just like all the public defendants are overworked and don't have enough time, and it's just awful. Like even the people that mean well on both sides of it, just like there's too much, there's not enough time, there's too many people, not enough resources, and it just sounds like a freaking nightmare. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not great.
All right, so a complete change of pace. Who's your favorite character from Parahumans?
Oh wow.
I mean, Legend's pretty great.
That's
hard to
not
go wrong
what
with.
I thought you would say.
Who do you think I would say?
I don't know. That's fascinating. Why?
Why? Why not? He's awesome. He's super wholesome. I mean, sure, he's Cauldron, but like he's definitely the best he's the best one of those guys. Like, he's got a somewhat like loving family. Seems like a good guy, is trying to do the right thing. Like, doesn't necessarily get a lot of screen time, but like pretty solid.
Turns into a freaking laser beam.
Yeah. I mean, hello.
Yeah. I'd settle for his powers.
Yeah, my first thought was Tattletale. I'm not sure if that's like definitely for sure.
Mm.
I love her. Um,
She's pretty great.
She's
yeah,
pretty great. Yeah.
yeah. It's hard to pick one. It's also just there's so many, and I'm running through, and I'm like, oh, is that?
You
too
can
many?
say legend too,
That one took me off guard.
The thing about Tattletale is that Wildbow so clearly loves her because he just, like, I don't know if it was in his original plan to make her as big of a part of Ward as she ended up being, but
Yeah.
like it just feels like inevitable because you can tell he loves writing that character. And she's a valuable plot device as well. Just to, if you need to get people information and you don't know how to do it, she's really handy to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just seeing her like grow and change, and like all of the shit and trauma she goes through, and how she tries to deal with it, and just like her dynamic with Victoria is so good. It's so good.
It really
I
is.
love it so much.
It is. It's my favorite thing.
Wonderful.
Tweet is saying, I forgot how Legend placed in March Madness, but that's a good question. Let me look it up. I don't think he did very well.
Like some obscure characters, because like obscure characters are normally like my favorite in stories. Like Telmanis was one of my favorite real-time characters for a long time, and I liked Podrick Bane before it was cool, before he was like a big deal in the show. Because normally the main character is like, you're so in their head that you see so many of their flaws, that it's harder for me to like them as much. I mean, that being said, Wildbow protagonists are like tend to be among my favorites in any given story. He's really good at that.
I looked it up. Legend lost in the second round to Bonesaw.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds great.
It's pretty rough, but
Legend beat Blasto in the first round and got creamed by Riley in the second round.
it's all right. People just don't know, That's fine.
Yeah. Well, that's what's fun is it's like, well, what do you mean when you say favorite? Like I always pick characters who suck. Like I always talk about Trickster, where it's like Trickster, he sucks. Like that's why I think he's a great character, is because it's like.
There was a whole
Fuck
thread
that
on
guy.
whole thread on Parahumans today about how terrible Trickster is, and I thought of you, Matt.
Yeah. Let me go check that out and add my love.
He is pretty terrible.
You're right about all of this, and I love him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I can make up my own stories about honorable and good people. It takes a special kind of creativity to make somebody as shitty as some of these evil or even just sort of vaguely crappy Parahumans characters.
That is the truth. Yeah. One of Wildbow's many talents, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does kind of blow my mind how well he can really get into like these different characters, like heads, and like, because it's one thing to just get into their head and understand it, but to be able to like convey it to everybody exactly what this person's, it blows my mind. I can't even string two sentences together most of the time. So
we were talking about this in our group chat earlier today, and I'm just convinced that he found a cheat code or something, because this just doesn't seem possible.
I don't know. He's got talent. That's for sure.
Like it's ridiculous. It's like there's talent, and then there's the ability to do it day in and day out, like with very little time to edit or like plan, and it's just like I think what I said in our conversation was like, things aren't supposed to be good when you write them this way. It's just like it doesn't work out that way. It's like it just doesn't. Like when you write this way, it's gonna be bad, and then it's not. And it's cheating. He's cheating.
I don't get it.
He hacked the Matrix. That's the only explanation.
Or he has one of those one of the things I always really, really want, and I think about like kind of a weird amount, is in Dragon Ball Z, like the hyperbolic time chamber, he has one of those.
There we go.
He goes in and he's like, all right, I have 2 months to write this next chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think like you could say one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to do like Walbo podcast or study Walbo in the first place was like to figure out his secret. And I feel like I definitely learned a lot, but I don't feel like I really understand
No.
what the secret sauce is here.
I know the why of how, like, I know why he's good. I don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to be like totally deterministic, it's like, well, he's just practiced doing this for so long that it's easy. But it's like, yeah, but I can't do anything with that information other than practice writing a web serial for, whatever, 10 years or something now. What is it? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Some ridiculous amount of
Yeah.
time.
I think it's around 10.
Yeah.
The other thing is like he hasn't finished that many stories, but at least the endings I've experienced so far, which is 2, are just like very good, and tying all these things together from, oh, I wrote that 2 years ago. Okay, here you go. This all makes sense, and this fits this character so
What the
perfectly,
heck?
and you can see their arc. And so it's like, yes, it's practice, but also in some ways it's not.
Yeah.
I agree. That's the thing that shouldn't work at all, right? The setup and the gradual feeding in of information and the patience. It's like,
Yeah,
come
just
on.
just the sheer talent of remembering that much detail at the same time. Like when Stephen King went back to his Dark Tower series, he needed an assistant to like write an entire book to remind him of what he had done in the previous books. And I know we're talking about much, like, he wrote that series over the course of like 30 years. So we're talking about much different time periods, but still,
True.
he's so many words and so much information, and to be able to pull it back and drop it in a place where it feels like that was the plan all along. That's the thing. We talk so much about people really got on the Star Wars trilogy's case about like not having a plan. And like the thing about it is like you don't actually need to have a plan. You just need to be good enough at writing to make it look like this was the plan. And like I know he has like a broad strokes of like where he thinks he wants the story to go, but like that's not the detail. Like the detail coming together is not part of a plan. It's just really good writing to make it seem like, of course, this was always the way it was going to go, and it was set up this way from the very beginning, and it's perfect. And
yeah, it's also just like, I think I mentioned this to Jen on a podcast recently, but like the fairy, right, are this like these creatures that have this insane intellect and think in like 18 different dimensions, and you're never going to outthink them. And you see, like subreddits and like big discords and all of these things where there's a whole bunch of people and they're all like, okay, what's going on? And they're all like working things out. And sometimes people will kind of be like, oh, maybe it's this. But in general, there's so many comments about like, oh, you can't fucking outthink the fairy. Like, you can't do any of this stuff. But it's like, this is one man in Canada on his computer, like, and this whole community of people is completely stumped and very freaked out by the whole concept of these beings that live in this one man's mind. And it's just like, he's amazing. It's weird being like, this man is amazing, but he's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's amazing.
yeah, it's
I don't
wild to
understand.
think about. It's wild to think about. I mean, there's like there's so much Reddit culture stuff, like with the Westworld show, where people just like, the show was basically built for a Reddit culture of let's go in and dive in and break apart every single bit of the story and crack it well before the writers meant for us to. And that's like a team. That's like a team of writers, and it's just wild.
Yeah. Like I guess since we're having this conversation, like I think one thing that I did feel like I came to understand when we talked to him in our interview was like, it seems like he actually does have a system for thinking things through and keeping his ideas organized.
Yeah, isn't
that
like
is-
color coded? I think he said. I'm trying to remember our conversation.
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned like color coding things and having like different feelings or concepts associated with colors and kind of moving characters through like not moving them through a spectrum of colors. That's not what he said, but like having them situated on a spectrum of colors, or the colors relating to each other and symbolizing things. And it was just like part of it is me projecting a lot from a few sentences that he said, but tying it with other things I've seen him say, where it's like, I think that he has this all so like mapped out in his mind that he's able to manifest it on the page really efficiently. Whereas I think a lot of creators that we, maybe they do well for a period of time and then they kind of seem to lose track. It's like, well, their mental corkboard of all of their plans and ideas and concepts and themes is just not as tight and organized as his is. So it gave me a lot of respect for the idea of like actually thinking things through carefully ahead of time, not necessarily plotting ahead of time, but thinking through the details of character and theme. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. See, this is what happens when Matt and I haven't gotten to talk about Wildbow in over a year. we get on it and then we just go freaking nuts. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's been a couple hours, so let's just call it here.
Okay.
Malia, Jenny, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, and we're so excited to have you on board. I'm enjoying the show, the parts of it that I can listen to.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been really fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for letting us talk about ourselves.
Yeah,
it's always fun,
And we'll have you back on our monthly Doof shows. We play some games and stuff with. I know Malia's already done that, but have we ever communicated to everyone that we're trying to organize it more? Matt, have we done this where it's supposed to be the third Friday of every month is our general plan? I don't know if we've communicated that, but we're trying to organize it, folks, where it's the third Friday of every month and it doesn't change unless we have some weird scheduling stuff. So that's the plan, and we're going to always try to do some interactive stuff, whether it be games or some other stuff. But that's it for us this month. Thank you all for hanging out for a couple hours, and thanks for supporting us and listening to all our shows. And I don't know. Anything else, Matt? Did I get it? Did I do it?
No, I mean, it was fun hanging out with y'all. Thanks for asking the questions and just being awesome people, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
And